Well, it wasn't as exciting as last time, but welcome everyone to the August 2009 FCC open meeting. I am delighted that today is our first meeting with Commissioners Clyburn and Baker. I'll have more to say about that, but first let me ask my colleagues if there are any opening remarks.
I won't say something about that too if you'd like to go first.
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think this is great. I mean, having everybody up here and that we are a fully reconstituted commission. We've got some really huge challenges facing the commission, facing the country, and I've been looking forward to having the benefit of the input of these five different souls up here as we focus on those problems. I think Commissioner Clyburn and Commissioner Baker each bring a very special and useful set of skills here. Both have demonstrated a deep and abiding commitment to public service. Commissioner Clyburn's years on the South Carolina Public Service Commission have given her some really valuable perspectives on a lot of the issues that we have coming up here, broadband and all the rest, and she also has a background in the media, and I'm really looking forward to working with her on those subjects. Commissioner Baker had time at the NTIA leadership there, which I think puts her in good stead for her leadership role here. I have just over the years really admired the intelligence and the dedication and the collegiality and knowledge that she has brought to everything she has done. So I think we're geared to go around here. It's looking good with the talented folks that you have brought in, Mr. Chairman, and then most importantly of all the 1,800 people who constitute the FCC team. I really do believe that this commission's best days are ahead of us. We've got really big things to do. Challenges to develop a national broadband plan, challenges to reinvigorate public interest media in our country. Both of those things cry out for action. So I do believe that each of us at the FCC will be a part of transformative history in the making. So a hearty welcome to all, and onwards and upwards.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Copps. Commissioner McDowell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, this is a great thing to have what we will hopefully be called the Cinco Amigos now, right? And to have Commissioner Clyburn and Commissioner Baker on board, this is fantastic to complete and round out the five seats. And Commissioner Clyburn doesn't even have to change the title on her business card, so that's a great first step. And hopefully you can save money that way. I don't know, just maybe scratch out the address or something, I don't know. But you're a terrific background, not only on the South Carolina Public Service Commission, but in business as well. And as the son of two journalists who were in the newspaper business, I'm really going to look forward to working with you on your insight and your business background as well, and in schooling and practical aspects. And I'm very, very excited to have you as a colleague. And of course, I've known Commissioner Baker long before she was Commissioner Baker for many, many years in both the private and the public sectors. And I know firsthand about her intellect, her energy, her enthusiasm, her dedication to public service, and perhaps most importantly, her sense of humor, which will help keep her sane here as well. But with her wealth of experience at NTIA, especially in wireless issues, that's going to be something I'm really looking forward to working with her on, as wireless, of course, will, even starting today, will be a big topic of conversation here at the FCC and is so important to American consumers. And then sort of lastly, we have several things in common, but one of which, to be added to that list, is that you're sitting in that chair, which means you now have to go last, and that means you'll furiously be editing your statements on the fly as all the other commissioners take all the good points, and so then you're going to have to learn to improvise, and this is going to drive your legal advisors absolutely crazy. So good luck with that, and let me know if I can be of any help. But as we go forward, it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm very, very pleased.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners Copps and McDowell, for your kind words. I join you in welcoming my new friend and colleague, Commissioner Baker. From the moment I walked into this building, I have been treated with warmth and kindness, and I have been the beneficiary of a group effort on the part of the staff to make my transition from the South Carolina Public Service Commission to the FCC as smooth as possible. In fact, I may not have found my way into this building my first week had not Mr. Awalam at the Main Street Garage come out to the curb and wave me back to the correct driveway. I want to take time to thank everyone here at the Commission for your efforts. From the welcome banner hung in the front lobby, to the gentleman who adjusted my thermostat yesterday, to the many hellos and hugs, yes, hugs, I've received as I walk through the hallways. Each of these things qualify as first-class Southern hospitality and are greatly appreciated. I am deeply honored that President Obama has entrusted me with the responsibility of serving alongside my distinguished colleagues on this commission. Together, we have a mission of critical importance to the American people as we regulate industries that affect their everyday lives and that are essential components of our economic recovery. I look forward to hearing from all stakeholders as we work to develop responsible policies that protect consumers and encourage robust competition and innovation. I am fortunate to be surrounded by an incredibly talented staff here at the FCC, including some who will be recognized at today's meetings. I will rely upon your expertise to guide, inform, and advise me as we develop sound and thoughtful communications policy over the next few years. For us to be successful, we must engage in an open and honest dialogue, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that my office fosters such an environment. Allow me at this time to introduce the folks, yes, I say folks because I'm Southern, in my office who've been assisting me during this transition. First, very special thanks to Amara Kennedy for serving as my acting confidential assistant, and to Crystal Rice for serving as my acting staff assistant. Next, Carol Simpson, who previously served in the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau and the Wireline Competition Bureau. She will be my acting legal advisor covering wireline and broadband issues. Rick Kaplan, acting legal advisor and chief of external affairs, will be handling media and consumer issues. Rick most recently served as the deputy coordinator of the DTV task force here at the Commission. Renee Rowland Crittenden will serve as my chief of staff and senior legal advisor, a position she held with former Commissioner Jonathan Adelstein. I also want to thank Michelle Ellison, who in addition to her duties as Deputy General Counsel, is leading the transition effort in my office. I'm pleased to be working with such an experienced team. Thank you again to all for your generosity, and I look forward to working with all of you in the days ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Commissioner McDowell was right. Can I have a few minutes just to revise my opening remarks? Great statement. Thank you very much, Commissioner McDowell and Commissioner Copps, for your welcome. I really appreciate your kind words. I truly am so excited to be here and to join this incredibly distinguished group of commissioners and this enormously talented staff here at the FCC. I think I'd like to take just a few minutes to help and say thank you to the people who got me here. So first of all, of course, I'm grateful to President Barack Obama for nominating me and to the United States Senate for confirming me. I'd particularly like to thank Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison for her confidence and her support, and the very able assistance of her Commerce Committee staff, Christine Kurth, Brian Hendricks, and Mike Engel, yes, he is an FCC detailee, for helping me through the process. They were really great. I'd like to thank Commissioner Rob McDowell and his Chief of Staff, Angela Giancarlo, for their time, for their encouragement, and for their assistance. If it were not for Angela, I might still be writing my responses to the questions for the record. Really, thank you. I'd like to thank the chairman. We are all so lucky to serve with not only such a capable man, but such a personable one. Thank you very much for your calls and for ensuring that I had everything that I needed to make this transition very smooth. Thank you for putting together an agenda today, which is a first meeting that we can all agree on. And of course, I want to thank you for swearing me in as well. I'd like to thank Commissioner Copps for your collegial attitude that you instilled while you're here as acting chairman. I think we're all incredibly grateful for that. And I'd also like to thank Commissioner Clyburn for her partnership in the confirmation process. It really is a bonding experience. And Last but not at all least, I would like to thank Bruce Gottlieb and Mary Beth Richards. They make all of our lives here at the Commission better and function more easily. Thank you. With that, it's hard to say thank you so many times. I'm sorry, but you just have to get it out on your first meeting. With that, I'd like to introduce my incredibly smart and capable staff who have been extremely hard at work to make sure that we hit the ground running. They're over there. My legal advisors, Bill Friedman, is going to be covering media and enforcement, Aaron McGrath, Wireless International and Homeland Security, and Christy Schumann, Wireline and CGB. They are great. My confidential assistant, Ann Monahan, has really, boy, she's got us together. It's amazing. And our receptionist is Betty Morris. We already have an intern, Greg Lauer. He's in his 3rd year, and he's going to be here for the fall. So I have enormous heartfelt thanks and gratitude for all of your help and wisdom. I am honored and humbled and really thrilled to get to work at this incredible place, at this incredible, crucial time in communications history. So I look forward to working together to help bring the most advanced and efficient communication systems in the world to all American consumers. So let's get started.
Perfect. Thank you. And I appreciate it especially that Commissioners Clyburn and Commissioners Baker took the time to thank their staffs. I think we all know here on the Commission dais that without the incredible work of our staffs in our offices and the staffs in the Commission, we wouldn't get anything done. Bruce Gottlieb and Cherie Smith and Priya Iyer worked incredibly hard on this meeting, as they do every day, and we'll see over the course of the meeting today the tremendous work that several bureaus and offices have been doing. And Eddie Lazarus and Colin Krull, thank you to you as well for doing everything that you do to make the Commission run on time and run so well. I would like to join Commissioner Copps and Commissioner McDowell in welcoming my new colleagues to their first FCC open meeting. With 5 commissioners on board, it's nice that the FCC can finally run full court again. Of course, seeing as how our new members hail from South Carolina and Texas, I probably should be using a football metaphor. But far less important than the fact that we have a full slate of 5 commissioners is that the FCC is adding 2 remarkable leaders. Commissioner Clyburn's perspective as a real leader at the state level, serving on the important South Carolina Public Service Commission for more than a decade, in addition to running a newspaper for 14, 15 years, will be invaluable, directly relevant to the work of the Commission. And Commissioner Baker, through your years of impressive service inside and outside government, you've developed, of course, a deep understanding of the communications landscape, which, in addition to the incredible expertise and experience that we have here, will be of real value to the Commission. We're fortunate to have both of you at the FCC. And as an added bonus, expanding now the number of commissioners from 3 to 5 should mean that my statements will be 40% shorter. Today we focus our agenda on our core goals of promoting innovation, investment, and competition in communications, while arming consumers with the tools they need to make smart, informed decisions. We will begin with a series today of interrelated inquiries on mobile communications and consumer empowerment, items that, of course, relate to broadband as well. But before we proceed to our scheduled business, I'd like to pause for a moment to reflect on the loss of Senator Ted Kennedy, a historic champion for justice and opportunity whose work deeply and positively affected the lives of countless Americans. His leadership will be missed at the FCC and by our nation. Many people will speak about Senator Kennedy this week. I wanted to note and spend just a couple of minutes on the passing of another visionary of unique relevance to the FCC, someone who in many ways embodied the goals we focus on in this meeting today, and who through his life's work demonstrated the power of communications to open doors and transform lives. A successful orthodontist, Dr. James Marsters, could have spent his entire career fixing people's teeth. But early in his life, he encountered a simple obstacle that he was determined to overcome. He wanted to use the telephone, and Dr. Marsters was deaf. He had an idea. He started tinkering with old teletype machines. In 1964, he teamed up with another deaf inventor, the physicist Robert Whitebrecht, who had developed a device called the acoustic coupler, known today as a modem, along with a third inventor, Andrew Sachs, the team created the first TTY device. For the first time, the deaf could communicate by telephone. In the ensuing decades, the invention allowed hundreds of thousands of deaf people to call their friends, their colleagues, and yes, their mothers. It was truly a transformational technical achievement. Marster's legacy rings loudly in this building and reminds us of the great things that can happen when we focus on the topics at the center of today's meeting. It reminds us of the importance of promoting innovation, because the TTY became, following the landmark Carter phone decision of 1968, perhaps the earliest example of the power of openness to unleash the genius of the American inventor at the edge of the network. It reminds us of the importance of promoting investment, because without the creation of a nationwide network of terminals, the TTY would have been just a hobbyist novelty. It reminds us of the importance of promoting competition, because in an era when only one telephone company, Marster's invention was initially resisted rather than embraced by network engineers. And it reminds us of the importance of protecting and empowering consumers, because no communication service makes a difference if people can't access it. Marsters led an effort to ensure that TTYs were affordable and widespread. He was one of the great consumer advocates in the telecom industry. All of us, deaf or not, owe a huge debt to James Marsters. It is in the spirit of that great man that we turn to our agenda meeting for today, which will address the topics of innovation and investment, competition, and consumers. These values lie at the core of the FCC's mission. They are essential to ensuring that communications in the 21st century serve as an enduring engine of economic growth for our nation and improve the lives of all Americans. Today's agenda also reflects a particular focus on mobile communications, one of the most important and dynamic sectors in the communications landscape, and necessarily a high priority for this agency. Wireless technologies are essential to how Americans organize their businesses and lives, our nation's economic competitiveness, as well as solving the challenge of universal broadband. And with the advent of remarkable new mobile broadband devices like the iPhone, the BlackBerry, we are at a pivotal moment in the history of this industry. The Communications Act entrusts the FCC with management of the spectrum, the public's airwaves, a unique and scarce national resource. It's a core responsibility of the agency. Sometimes this will require changes in commission rules. Sometimes it won't. But it will always require a relentless focus on policies that promote innovation and investment, competition, and consumers. Against this background of enormous promise and great stakes for the nation, we are establishing the factual foundation to take appropriate and concrete steps to maximize and accelerate investment and innovation, encourage competition, and empower consumers of communication services with the information they need to make the market work. This process will be essential for our nation to become the world's leader in mobile and to realize the vast potential of 21st century communications networks. Madam Secretary, can you please introduce our agenda for today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, and good morning, Commissioners. Today's agenda includes 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of inquiry to seek to understand better the factors that encourage innovation and investment in wireless, and to identify concrete steps the Commission can take to support and encourage further innovation and investment in this area. Second, you will consider a notice of inquiry soliciting information for the next annual report to Congress on the status of competition in the mobile wireless market, including commercial mobile services. Third, you will consider a notice of inquiry that seeks comment on whether there are opportunities to protect and empower American consumers by ensuring sufficient access to relevant information about communication services. You will also hear 3 presentations. The first presentation will describe the status of the Commission's process for developing a national broadband plan. The second presentation will describe the status of the Commission's process for developing FCC reform. Last on your agenda, the Commission will present the awards for excellence in engineering, excellence in economics analysis, and the Employee of the Year. This is your agenda for today. The first item will be presented jointly by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of Engineering and Technology.
Thank you. Mr. Schlichting, I believe you'll make the presentation. You've been working together with OET, but please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, you have charged the Wireless Bureau with obtaining the facts and developing the analytical framework needed for recommendations to the Commission that will do the following. First, enable the United States to lead the world in mobile communications. And second, support wireless communications as an enduring engine for long-term economic growth. The notices of inquiry that you have before you today are early steps in furtherance of those goals. The Wireless Innovation and Investment NOI and the Mobile Wireless Competition NOI are two sides of the same coin. We know that competition drives innovation and investment. It forces companies to continue to develop new approaches and to make investments for future growth. We know that innovation drives competition, as smart ideas and entrepreneurial spirit enables new entrants. In order to achieve these goals, innovation, investment, and competition, we need facts and we need sound analysis. That's why both these NOIs are full of questions. We, of course, are hoping for answers that will build the Commission's knowledge base and help us formulate coherent analytical frameworks. The first item addresses wireless innovation and investment. As reflected in the cross-bureau team at the table this morning, this is very much a joint item of the Office of Engineering Technology and the Wireless Bureau. With me from OET are first the one who needs no introduction, Julie Neff, the Chief of OET. And at the far end of the table, Jerry Matisse, Chief of the Policy Rules Division in OET, and Jameson Prime, Chief of the Spectrum Policy Branch in that division. Representing the Wireless Bureau staff are Joel Taubenblatt, Deputy Chief, and Peter Trachtenberg, a Senior Attorney in the Spectrum and Competition Policy Division. Joel will present the item. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. Today we present a notice of inquiry on innovation and investment in the wireless sector. The goals of this inquiry are to better understand the factors that drive and encourage innovation and investment in wireless, and also to identify concrete steps that the Commission can take to further encourage innovation and investment in this area. Thank you. Innovation has the power to transform the communications landscape. Wireless, as an increasingly significant part of the communications sector, has the ability to make a major contribution to short-term economic recovery and long-term economic growth. And the Commission's policies, particularly with respect to making spectrum available, can have a major impact on the development of services and products in the wireless landscape. While the NOI recognizes successes of certain regulatory policies over the years, the NOI also represents an opportunity to take a step back and analyze what further enhancements the Commission can make to its policies to better encourage innovation and investment in wireless. The NOI particularly focuses and asks questions about what uses Americans have for wireless to solve real-world problems, particularly in areas such as healthcare, energy, education, and public safety. For example, wireless technologies are being used to monitor patients' health and administer life-critical functions for patients. Also being used to operate smart electrical grids and smart appliances. Wireless technologies are being used to deliver libraries of content to classrooms, and also used for public safety agencies to find new ways to protect safety of life. The NOI asks comment, or seeks comment, with respect to certain overarching issues to allow us to gain a better understanding of the state of innovation and what role the Commission can play to drive it forward. In particular, and for example, the NOI asks questions about what metrics and data sources we should be considering when we think about innovation and investment in the wireless sector, how to compare the United States with other countries in terms of innovation, and what high-level trends are taking place in the wireless ecosystem that we should focus on and track over time. The provision of innovative wireless services and products is critically dependent on access to spectrum. That's why the NOI seeks comment on developments in the use and availability of spectrum that that are happening in the wireless ecosystem and that the Commission should focus on in determining what role to play. For example, the NOI asks questions about what methods we should use to potentially repurpose spectrum for new uses. It asks questions about how to further access to spectrum, how to develop models that will further those access, how to find new ways to better manage interference protection, and how to develop enhanced methods and new ways to use spectrum more efficiently. Innovation is also occurring in a number of other areas in the wireless ecosystem. For example, wireless networks are evolving to more IP-based and converged platform architectures. Wireless devices are used for multifunctions, such as smartphones, and new sophisticated applications for things like location-based services and video streaming are being developed as well. The NOI seeks comment on what's going on in these areas and what role the Commission might play in further encouraging innovation and investment in these areas, as well as in wireless business practices and models. In addition, the NOI seeks comment on ways that the Commission can further experimentation in the wireless sector, particularly with respect to the FCC's experimental licensing program. The Wireless Bureau and OET recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Commissioner Comps, do you have remarks?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Joel and Jim and Julie and everyone at the table and all the folks standing behind you in the bureaus who work so hard to bring these items to us, because this item, these three items are so interrelated, as the chairman so eloquently pointed out. And to avoid repetition in each of the statements, I'd like to just kind of do a little three-in-one presentation here, which will make my initial statement a little bit longer than it might otherwise have been, but I promise to cease and desist after the first one, and hopefully that'll save us a little time going forward. But each of these three NOIs goes to the heart of the Commission's core function, which is protecting and empowering American consumers. The agenda today is really a propitious beginning for the first meeting of our fully reconstituted FCC, and I want to thank Chairman Janikowski for his vision, for his leadership in bringing these items forward at the outset of his tenure, and I think it shows a commitment that bodes very well for the months and years ahead. The notices we are adopting today lay the groundwork for sound public policy making. They seek to protect consumers in three ways: by searching out new ways for the Commission to facilitate wireless innovation and investment, by improving our ability to promote wireless competition, and by ensuring that consumers of wireless and other services have the information they need in order to make intelligent choices for themselves and their families. We begin with innovation. More even than the dramatic technology advances of the 20th century, the 21st will be about stunning and transformative innovations. Wireless technologies have already empowered consumers in ways unimaginable just a few short years ago. Those first seemingly magical devices that carried our voices hither and yon, at least when everything was working well, are now evolving into robust mobile computers. The wireless industry deserves recognition and credit for how much it has accomplished. But mark me down as one who believes we have only glimpsed the beginning. Much more is coming. How much more depends in significant measure on our country's success in encouraging wireless innovation. There should be no doubt that facilitating further innovation in wireless technologies and services is absolutely crucial to our nation's prosperity and well-being in the digital age. We look to industry for much of that, but visionary public policy should always be the handmaiden of private enterprise. That's how we grew this country. And now, once again, we must learn to harness all of our national resources for innovation and for growth. One of the great and costly shortfalls of the last decade was a declining commitment to basic technology research and development. The tsunami of industry consolidation America endured in recent years shortchanged research and development, because R&D supposedly didn't nourish the quarterly bottom line in ways sufficiently appealing to speculators on the make. At the same time, government was for the most part exiting its role as an incubator of research and development. These simultaneous private and public cutbacks constituted a double whammy that cost us, consumers, citizens, and country, dearly. The National Research Council reported just a couple of years ago that without enhanced focus on technology research and development, the U.S. role as a global leader in technology innovation can only continue to decline. The report showed how industry and government-funded research have decreased considerably over the past several decades. We need to understand these things, and we need to act upon them. With today's notice on fostering innovation in the wireless communications market, we begin to act. We launch an inquiry to understand how the Commission can better promote innovation and investment in new technologies and services. We ask wide-ranging questions. We seek to better understand where and how key innovations are occurring across the extensive value chain of the wireless market. What has gone wrong? Where are the shortfalls? What are other countries doing to promote innovation? We also inquire about ways to improve spectrum management practices to make more spectrum available for innovative services. For example, do technology innovations create new opportunities for accessing or sharing spectrum? What are they? How can we revise our rules to enable greater access for those with new products and services that Americans want? How can we do a better job as an agency addressing interference protection concerns and the conflicting claims of contending parties so that rulemakings do not continue to languish? What rule changes do we need to make as wireless network infrastructure and technologies bring us a flood of new possibilities and new applications? Improving the Commission's analysis and understanding of these matters will enhance our ability to take the actions necessary to promote wireless innovation and investment. I'm also pleased that a number of questions in this notice focus on innovations in devices and applications, as you mentioned, Joel. The increasing sophistication and complexity of new devices and applications have opened new worlds to millions of consumers. How exactly does the openness of wireless networks and devices affect the pace of innovation? Aren't open platforms and open access the kinds of models that best promote innovation? What can we learn from the Internet model, where openness has provided consumers a fantastic world of choice in applications and services? The freedom to choose devices and applications is, I believe, good for consumers and good for entrepreneurs, too. Wireless technologies, again, as you pointed out, aren't just ends in themselves. They are things that are going to be called upon to help solve many of the critical challenges facing our country. Improvements in healthcare through telemedicine and patient monitoring devices, energy conservation through smart grids, education by bringing classrooms to eager learners wherever they may be, and public safety by enhancing the capabilities of our first responders, to name just a few. As we enable wireless technologies and services, we enable America to meet and master many challenges. I would also say how pleased I am that we will have the opportunity to consider the comments we receive in this notice as we develop our congressionally mandated National Broadband Plan, wherein promoting innovation will be critical to the achievement of our goals. Of course, we already have records on some of these issues, so that all action does not have to wait until next year. Today, we also paved the way for improving the agency's annual CMRS competition report to Congress by expanding the scope of that report. For years, I have advocated the benefits of a more granular, data-driven understanding of the current mobile wireless marketplace. While we have made some limited progress in this regard in recent years, we have a long way to go. In particular, I have remained concerned that the Commission has not yet developed a clear, more analytically sound standard for evaluating the state of competition that these annual reports are supposed to address. This is a crucial time to fully understand the state of competition in wireless. It's no secret to most folks in this room that I have been more than a tad critical of the extensive consolidation that has occurred in wireless. While I again applaud the technology and service strides that the wireless industry has made, I remain unconvinced that the road we traveled was ideal. The Commission has a statutory duty to prevent undue concentration in the wireless marketplace. We opened the floodgates to consolidation with the repeal of spectrum caps. And more recently, the Commission has been playing unhelpful games with altering spectrum aggregation screens without first completing the necessary analysis on how the use of different frequency bands may affect competition. The time is now, with a new Commission and a national broadband plan in the making to decide what path to take in order to ensure a more competitive wireless marketplace. Today's notice signals that the Commission is at last moving beyond too heavy a focus on what it has classified as commercial mobile radio service, so that going forward we can cover more completely the broader mobile wireless marketplace. The nature of mobile wireless has evolved significantly in recent years, transitioning from a reliance chiefly on voice services to the increasing use and reliance on broadband services. We need to better understand the various segments that comprise the mobile wireless ecosystem. So in this inquiry, we seek to identify the retail service and consumer market segments that we should examine, which could include analysis of the market by type of service, such as mobile, voice, text, data, type of device, handsets, or modem cards, type of subscription, such as prepaid or postpaid, or type of subscriber using the service, such as individual consumers or small business or larger enterprises. We seek additional data about upstream markets like towers and spectrum and backhaul, and downstream or edge markets like applications and content that may affect wireless competition. And we seek more data regarding the range of choices that consumers have that affect their purchasing decisions. These are all the right questions to ask. Finally, we will consider today a notice addressing consumer information and disclosure. It inquires how the Commission can better protect consumers by ensuring that they have the information they need when purchasing their communications services. We have not done much of a job on this important element of consumer protection in recent years. Consumers cannot be expected to make informed choices without information that truly informs. I have spoken in the past about, for example, better cell phone mapping being available to consumers when they go in to sign up with a carrier. The situation is arguably better now than it was, but it could have been better sooner, and there is still room for improvement. Wireless bills remain a monthly agony for consumers. Ask my wife, who pays our bills, about how much she looks forward to that envelope arriving in the mail every month. Consumer protection must always be front and center as we discharge our public interest obligations, and in a market that I think is less than maximally competitive, that's not just good public policy, it is essential public policy. If information is power, consumers too often lack power. So as the digital revolution transforms our lives, let's make sure that consumers have the information they need to select and maintain the products and services that serve them best. I am also very pleased that this notice asks whether the Commission's truth in billing rules, which currently apply only to wireline and wireless voices, and then, as I remarked, not always adequately, whether they should be extended to broadband internet access service and subscription video services. The digital age is obviously a time of communications convergence, wherein voice, video, and broadband services are more and more intertwined. We have double, triple, quadruple play services offered by single or partnered service providers. So I am pleased that finally, with this item, we begin to examine when information should be readily available to consumers to empower them. So in sum, these are good news, all three of these notices. By issuing them, we endeavor to become the more pro-consumer agency that we were originally conceived to be and must yet become. But let there be no doubt that these notices represent only the beginning of the process. NOIs begin proceedings. NPRMs breathe direction into them. Commission orders bring change. I hope and I believe that this Commission will act with a sense of urgency in getting from NOIs to final orders. That's fundamental to doing our job for the American people. Again, I appreciate the leadership of the Chairman and the input of all of my colleagues, two of whom didn't have exactly a great abundance of time to consider these items. And I thank the staff from all of the different bureaus and offices that has collaborated so well in the preparation of these proceedings. It was a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Copps. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I was just sitting here realizing this is Austin Schlick's first meeting as General Counsel. Is that right? Yes, it is. So congratulations. I just wanted to say that. Welcome. It's been a pleasure. You've been on board here at the Commission for a while, but it's been a while since our last meeting. So I wanted to just congratulate you for your job's been a pleasure working with you thus far. And it's actually, I had to do a double take. Mr. Schlick is sitting next to Mr. Schlichting. So that got a little confusing there for a quick second. But anyway, and I wanted to thank Michelle Ellison for her terrific job at the helm as Acting General Counsel, my fellow Blue Devil. and I'm looking forward to the exciting time we have ahead to continue to work together here at the Commission. And I want to congratulate the Wireless Bureau team, as well as Julie Knapp and all the great folks in the Office of Engineering and Technology for their work on this thoughtful and comprehensive notice. As our inquiry acknowledges, the Commission's policies in the wireless sector have helped encourage and enable the innovation that defines today's wireless marketplace. Likewise, policies that fostered continued innovation have spurred capital investment in wireless and brought advanced services to American consumers. Furthermore, the wireless market appears to be robustly competitive, with 51% of consumers having a choice of 5 wireless providers and about 94% having a choice of 4. At the same time, more competition is coming over the horizon with the build-out of the 700 megahertz band, as well as AWS-1 and hopefully white spaces technologies as we continue to work on that, plus many, many more areas. Prices have been coming down while functionality and innovation and choice have been going up. As a result, wireless technology has penetrated broadly and quickly across America. Even at present, in the midst of the worst economy in decades, an economy that seems only to shrink at times, the communications sector, which includes wireless technologies and services, intends to plow as much as $80 billion this year alone into capital expenditures that are making broadband services faster, more available, and more affordable. Few, if any, sectors can make such a claim. In fact, I think no other sector in our economy can make such a claim. In short, the phenomenal success of the wireless sector shows how well a light regulatory touch works. While today we unanimously support the Commission seeking to develop a framework for analyzing wireless innovation and the relationship between innovation and investment, where we go from here is not yet clear. But where we have been is clear. The Commission's long-standing policy to allow competitive market forces rather than command and control regulations to foster the development of and investment in wireless networks and services has led to remarkable advances. Thus, I hope that we will proceed with care, mindful that any future action we consider should aim to attract more private investment capital rather than deter it. Finally, I want to note my preference for a more pragmatic comment period, 30 days from the release date of the inquiry, presumably 30 days from today. In my view, does not provide parties with adequate time to collect, organize, and submit insightful information. While I appreciate the idea of including the comments filed in this proceeding in the docket associated with the National Broadband Plan, I'm concerned that we may be shortchanging both inquiries by not allowing adequate time for meaningful input on the challenging legal and economic questions raised here. But again, I thank the staff for their hard work, the chairman for his leadership, my colleagues for the first of what will be our unanimous votes, and we'll have a 1,000 batting average by the end of today. And I continue to look forward to working with everybody and to learn more about innovation and investment in the wireless marketplace through this item. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner McDowell. Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you. It's very exciting to embark on this quest to expand and inform our understanding of key innovations in the wireless market. At the outset, I want to thank Chairman Janikowski for his leadership in initiating this notice of inquiry, which is intended to build on already successful policies in this critical sector. The wireless marketplace continues to evolve. The past decades of technological advancements and innovations in software, content, and handsets are remarkable, capturing the attention of consumers across all demographics. The inquiry we start here today is designed to canvass specific areas of wireless innovation, understand any regulatory encumbrances, and elicit new information on how to best promote and enable wireless innovations. I think our efforts here, combined with today's inquiry into competitive conditions in the mobile wireless market, are important steps in the right direction. The extent to which our inquiry will lead to greater competition and innovation in the wireless market can only inure to the benefit of the American consumer. I am particularly pleased that this item seeks comment on the best efforts for reproposing spectrum in the cost factors associated with such reallocations. The questions we raise regarding access models and mechanisms are equally important. As this notice correctly recognizes, spectrum availability for new services and applications is an ongoing challenge and a handicap on wireless innovation. I greatly look forward to hearing from all of you on ways we can spur the innovative and intensive use of spectrum. Finally, I am aware of the protracted interference disputes that can arise when new services and devices are sought to be introduced into a particular shared or adjacent spectrum band. So I am pleased that this item raises questions regarding alternative approaches to managing spectrum interference. I'm eager to hear back from the public on this and all other important questions raised in this notice. I thank the staff of both the Wireless Bureau and the Office of Engineering Technology for your hard work on this item, which I'm pleased to support.
Thank you, Commissioner Clyburn. Commissioner Baker.
Today, in this notice of inquiry, we commence a proceeding which will allow the Commission to obtain comprehensive information about innovation in the wireless industry. I'm encouraged to see the Commission undertake a thorough review of its policies and procedures to ensure that we do all that we can to continue to foster and encourage competition, innovation, and investment in the wireless sector. I am very pleased that this will be the first vote that I cast here at the Commission. I'm also pleased that today's notice poses important questions about the critical role spectrum management plays in wireless innovation. Specifically, we hope to acquire a comprehensive understanding of developments that will promote greater access to and more efficient uses of spectrum. At the outset, I want to note that this notice will likely produce many recommendations for Commission action. We must be wary, however, of implementing policies that could benchmark innovation and unintentionally hinder possible new entrants, technologies, and business models. Rather, any future action that arises out of this notice should ensure that capital investment not be deterred and that innovation continues to flourish to the benefit of the American consumer. Over the past 10 years, the nation's wireless industry has witnessed unparalleled innovation and growth. In fact, the wireless industry has grown at well over 16% per year, outpacing the remainder of the economy, which has grown at a rate of little more than 3% per year. And over the past 7 years, wireless providers have invested $22.8 billion per year on average to upgrade networks to provide broadband services. We stand on the verge of the next generation of wireless broadband products, and the government should proceed with great caution so as to ensure the best outcome for consumers. I thank the Chairman for taking into account my concerns regarding the Commission's statutory authority to regulate some of these areas. While more detailed information is helpful, I would like to raise the issue of the potential burden on the interested parties. We are releasing this notice concurrently with our important inquiry on mobile wireless competition, and I question whether the stakeholders will have the ability to submit substantive responses in both proceedings. While we don't know what this inquiry will yield, in determining our next steps, we should be mindful of our past successes and continue to refrain from imposing unnecessary and burdensome regulatory obligations on industry. Finally, I want to thank the staffs of the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of Engineering and Technology for this thorough and comprehensive item. I look forward to contributing my views and engaging in debate with the staff, the interested parties, the Chairman, and my fellow Commissioners. Ongoing wireless market innovations, whether it's handset functionality, 4G technology, smart antennas, or software-defined radios, to name a few, are the key behind greater productivity and improved gateways to information that enhance the lives of American consumers and our economy. I hope this notice will help inform what we at the FCC can do to ensure that America continues to be a world leader in the next generation of wireless innovation.
Commissioner Baker, thank you. I'd like to first join Commissioner McDowell and my colleagues in welcoming Austin Schlick here as General Counsel at his first meeting, welcoming Austin back to the Commission. Austin Schlick joins a truly talented, experienced group of new leaders at the Commission, some from outside the Commission, some from inside the Commission, representing a wonderful breadth of background and expertise. I want to thank Michelle Ellison as well for serving so ably as acting general counsel. We have a few more announcements yet to come, and at some point we will formally welcome the new team to the agency. This is an excellent notice. I know that the Wireless Bureau and OET, coordinating and consulting with other bureaus and offices, worked very hard on this excellent item. Today in this item, the Commission identifies innovation and investment as core components of the FCC's mission. I'm delighted that the Commission is doing so. In the item, the Commission seeks to identify appropriate and concrete steps we can take to support and encourage further innovation and investment in wireless, and to understand better the factors that lead to innovation and investment in wireless. We're at the beginning, as Commissioner Kopp said, of a wireless revolution. We're in the first innings of a set of developments that will be so important to our country. With respect to mobile, it's hard to think of a sector of the communications marketplace that better illustrates the potential of innovation coupled with investment. Over the past decade and a half, cell phones have gone from something accessible to a relatively small segment of the population, 3.5 million users in 1999, to an indispensable device carried by over 270 million Americans today. And with the advent of extraordinary and innovative new devices like the iPhone and the Pre and the BlackBerry, we're on the verge of a second transformation from mobile voice to mobile broadband, from handheld devices that can do just one thing to smart mobile mini computers that can do almost anything at all. The remarkable devices we see today and the consumer enthusiasm surrounding the new devices are just a start. Recent projections indicate that smartphones may outsell personal computers by 2011. It is essential that the U.S. become the leader in this new wireless marketplace globally. Of course, no one can really predict with confidence exactly how the revolution in mobile broadband will ultimately affect our society and our economy. But it doesn't take a crystal ball to see that the effects are going to be deep and far-reaching. Mobile broadband will create and support many of the great companies, technologies, and applications of tomorrow. It will play an essential role in supporting the long-term health of our economy and creating new jobs for American workers. It will enable all of us to be more productive and more connected everywhere we go. And it will have, I believe, positive consequences for our nation's ability to solve pressing problems like healthcare, education, energy, public safety. The FCC, as the agency entrusted with managing the public's airwaves, will play a critical role in this process. This Commission's decisions on how spectrum is allocated, assigned, and licensed or unlicensed, on how interference is defined, disputes are adjudicated, band sharing is administered, on how equipment is authorized, experimental licenses are granted or denied, and a whole host of other questions discussed in today's notice will have a profound impact on how the wireless marketplace develops. The Commission's history in this area holds great examples of success, such as the PCS auctions, the creation of the unlicensed regime that enabled Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and other powerful innovations. But there are also examples of failures in the Commission's history, band plans and services that failed to attract users, lay fallow or near fallow for years, and needed to be reconsidered after much wasted effort and time. In short, at times the Commission has gotten it right, and at times it has gotten it wrong. The purpose of initiating today's inquiry is to make sure that we get it right as we move into the brave new world of wireless broadband. It's important to note that the nature of innovation is not constant, and it's one of the reasons I'm so pleased that the Wireless Bureau and OET, among others, have rolled up their sleeves to dig into what exactly the Commission can do to best foster and encourage innovation in the wireless marketplace. The nature of innovation has changed significantly in recent time. Our digital era allows for greater collaboration, rapid iteration, faster time to market. These trends have affected innovation at large companies, some of which are responsible for truly impressive recent innovations. And these trends have created a new generation of innovators, working with new tools on new platforms and having an extraordinary impact on our economy and society, and it's just the beginning. It's great news for the communications marketplace and for communications consumers, and it is essential that the Commission come to grips with this new world, take seriously the new opportunities and the new challenges, and be relentless about developing policies that maximize and accelerate innovation and investment. Unless there's any more discussion, let's proceed to a vote on this notice of inquiry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and I grant the request for editorial privileges that was made earlier. Thank you very much. I think some of you will be staying for our next item. Madam Secretary, if you could announce the next agenda item, please.
The Wireless Telecommunications Bureau will make the next presentation on a notice of inquiry for the Wireless Competition Report.
Thank you. And as we welcome Paul Dessau, our new head of our Office of Strategic Planning and Policy Analysis, to his first commission meeting. And John Leibovitz, your first meeting as well, or your first time on the panel? Chelsea Fallon, welcome as well. It's pleased to have you all. And Mr. Schlichting, the court is yours.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, yes, joining me at the table for the next item are Paul Dessau, Chief of the Office of Strategic Planning and Policy Analysis, John Leibovitz, the other rookie on the team, Deputy Chief in the Wireless Bureau, and Chelsea Fallon. She's a Senior Analyst in the Wireless Bureau Spectrum and Competition Policy Division. She, like me, are the veterans on the team. In our two-part presentation today, Paul will provide us an overview of the numerous Commission reports prepared each year on the status of competition in various telecom and media sectors, and we'll briefly discuss staff plans for a more consistent analytical approach to these reports than has been taken in the past. Then John will present the notice of inquiry on the mobile wireless competition report that is before you today. So with that, Paul.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's a privilege to be here this morning to say a few words about our proposed approach to the Commission's competition reports going forward. Ensuring competition is one of the Commission's major goals, and competition benefits consumers in numerous ways, lowering prices, increasing choice, and encouraging innovation. The Commission is required by Congress to report on competition in various sectors of the communication industry and takes action to promote competition, such as setting rules for interconnection, ensuring number portability, holding spectrum auctions, and reviewing mergers. The reports that the Commission is required to undertake are shown on this slide. They're performed by our various bureaus, and they include the wireless report that we are discussing this morning, as well as reports on satellite, video programming, local telephone competition, and broadband. The opportunity that we see, particularly in light of convergence, is to implement a consistent analysis of competition across these various sectors, so that the reports together will present a coherent picture of industry competition that is analytically rigorous and a foundation for sound and consistent policymaking. The proposed approach is data-driven, relying on facts, not assumptions. It is analytically rigorous, using the best methodologies to assess competition. It will be comprehensive and realistic, reflecting the actual experience of consumers and competitors. And it will be nuanced, examining the state of competition along the entire industry value chain and with an appropriate customer, product, and geographic segments.
Good morning, and I think would like to flip a few more slides if you may. Today's mobile wireless competition notice of inquiry is a first step in pursuing the new approach to competition that my colleague Paul just described. Today's NOI builds upon the public notice that was released by the Wireless Bureau on May 14th, and we're expanding the inquiry beyond the traditional narrow scope of commercial mobile radio service to include the wider mobile ecosystem, and therefore we'll be giving the report a new title. It will be called the Mobile Wireless Competition Report, which includes CMRS. So what does the NOI ask? First, the NOI asks whether the framework for analyzing competition that was utilized in previous reports is sufficient and up to date, or whether other methods of analysis should be utilized. For example, traditionally we've used a 4-part framework that focuses on industry structure, conduct, performance, and consumer behavior. We ask whether this framework is the best framework out there so that the Commission is using the most state-of-the-art analytical approach. The NOI also asks about new sources of data, particularly quantitative data, and how the metrics included in the report could be more precise. The NOI asks questions about wireless market segments that were not covered in previous reports, and these include inputs or infrastructure segments such as spectrum and backhaul, towers, and also downstream or edge markets such as applications, devices, content commerce that rely upon the mobile services to reach market. The NOI asks for comment on how vertical relationships across players and segments and the upstream and downstream market segments affect mobile wireless competition broadly. The general outline of the NOI should be on the screen. In addition to some of the more methodological issues that I just discussed, the NOI asks about specific topics like how the competitive dynamics of the market affect consumers, the relationship between market inputs and competition, the relationship between competition and ongoing investment, as well as the effects on entry and growth, how new network technologies are affecting competition, and finally, how wireless competition varies across geographies, including the differences between rural and urban areas. We invite a wide range of people, stakeholders, and interested parties to provide comments, input, and data in response to this NOI. We've listed some of them on the screen. They include service providers and carriers, application and content providers, equipment and device manufacturers, tower and backhaul providers, consumer software developers, and frankly, anybody who has important data and insight to contribute that will help us in our evaluation of competition in the mobile wireless market. The Bureau recommends adoption of this NOI, and we request editorial privileges. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Copps, would you like to say anything now, or
Absent an overwhelming clamor from the audience for me to repeat what I said earlier, I will actually carry out my pledge for brevity. I do want to thank all of you for the report, and I particularly like that last slide, soliciting a lot of input from people. We get a lot of comments on wireless already, and the good comments from both traditional and non-traditional stakeholders. So anything we can do in the way of outreach to elicit further comment on all of these notices today is a public service. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And obviously, I'm supporting today's item. I'm really pleased that the Commission is aiming to expand and enhance our analytical tools by asking for comment on a broad array of issues that were very well outlined. Our task is really twofold, it appears. We will consider a comprehensive array of factors that affect competitive conditions in the provision of wireless services, and then ensure that we best apply the best analytic framework for the most robust data available. Doing so will position the Commission to think through and determine prudent courses of action in a wide variety of areas. At the same time, I am less sanguine about the prospects for gathering meaningful new information. While I understand that the reality of limited resources and a troubled economy may affect participation in this docket, I hope that interested stakeholders will not simply resubmit the pleadings filed in response to the Wireless Bureau's 14th report public notice, which was issued in May. This is especially so given that we will incorporate those earlier filings into this new docket. Moreover, just as with the earlier item on innovation in the wireless industry, I would have preferred that we had a more pragmatic comment period, and I'll just incorporate those remarks into the statement as well. But I do want to thank the Chairman for his leadership and the Bureau and everyone involved for their thoughtful work, and continue to look forward to working with you on this very important matter.
Thank you, Commissioner McDowell. Commissioner Clyburn, if you have any remarks.
Thank you. I'm pleased to support this notice of inquiry. Consistent with our congressional directive, the Commission is tasked with developing policies and regulations that promote competition in the commercial mobile services arena. Developing an effective and informative analysis of the state of competition in the wireless industry is key to reaching Congress's stated fundamental goal, the promotion of competition. By expanding and enhancing the Commission's analysis of current competitive conditions, we hope to gain a more granular level of data that should form the basis for sound policy choices for competitive wireless mobile services. I believe that this item takes the right approach by analyzing commercial mobile radio services as part of a more broad mobile wireless market. When consumers consider the capabilities of their mobile wireless devices, their focus is typically on the cost and capabilities for a device that integrates voice, content, applications, and other data services. And given that mobile providers have themselves integrated through bundling the marketing of all of these services and applications, it certainly makes sense that we look at these services beyond those more narrowly defined as CMRS. Taking a critical look at our analytical framework and data sources is an important piece of this inquiry. I'm particularly pleased that we are seeking specific qualitative and quantitative data on elements that affect consumers' mobile wireless purchasing decisions and consumer behavior. Additionally, improving our understanding of market segments and edge markets while working to develop a more detailed record on spectrum holdings and all inputs in this so-called wireless ecosystem is a worthwhile endeavor, with an end of goal of competition to benefit consumers. I also look forward to hearing more from commenters regarding barriers to entry, which remain an ongoing challenge. I thank Chairman Janikowski for his leadership in initiating this inquiry and the Bureau staff for their work on this item.
Thank you, Commissioner Clyburn. Commissioner Baker?
Thank you, Chairman Janikowski. I'm happy to vote in favor of this notice of inquiry, which will facilitate the Commission's ability to gather broader information and data regarding the state of competition in the mobile wireless market. Today's notice of inquiry expands the scope of the annual competition report to analyze commercial mobile radio services as part of the mobile wireless market ecosystem, and I commend the staff for their thoughtful work and creativity. By seeking comment on how a greater segment of the wireless industry, such as infrastructure, spectrum input, applications, content, and devices, affects competition, we are improving our ability to analyze the marketplace. I hope that the interested parties which may not have commented on the 14th competition report public notice, because the scope was limited solely to CMRS, will take this opportunity to participate. I am pleased that today's notice of inquiry poses important questions about an array of components impacting the wireless sector and inquires as to whether we should modify the framework we use to analyze market conditions. We must ensure that we are applying the best data framework to accurately determine the state of the competitive environment. I have a particular interest in spectrum matters and, more specifically, the means and tools to maximize spectral efficiency and optimize spectrum use and management. Therefore, I applaud that as part of this overall inquiry, we request qualitative and quantitative data to inform our analysis of how spectrum holdings and infrastructure affect overall competition. I am also pleased that this notice of inquiry recognizes the important role that consumers play in influencing the development of wireless products and services, and requests data and information regarding how their purchasing decisions affect the marketplace. At the same time, although there are benefits in collecting additional data regarding the wireless marketplace, we must be mindful that we may be seeking information about services that the Commission may not have the authority to regulate. That said, I look forward to reviewing the information and data that we receive as a result of today's inquiry, along with the pleadings that are filed in response to the 14th competition public report public notice, and engaging with the staff, the interested parties, the chairman, and my fellow commissioners on issues relating to the competition in the wireless industry. Thank you.
Commissioner Baker, thank you. I'm particularly pleased by the name of this item, the Wireless Competition Report. It reflects a couple of things, and really this is part of a proceeding that until today we call the CMRS report. One, it reflects a desire that we all share to make the FCC as acronym-free as possible. Part of that is because we're in a time that's changing. The activities that the FCC oversees are more and more relevant to a wider and wider array of interested consumers, businesses, and one of the ways that we can facilitate fuller input is by all working together on plain English explanations of what we're doing. And I know that we have unanimity on that. I'm pleased by that, and pleased that the bureaus are pushing in this direction as well. Of course, the other reason, as others have discussed, that the item that the notice is called Wireless Competition Report is that it does go beyond what CMRS is understood to be narrowly, to look more broadly at all of the elements that affect what we understand to be the mobile marketplace. It's an important step in the process of laying a solid foundation for predictable, fact-based competition policy in the wireless sector, a process that will continue, as Paul Dessau said, with other competition reports that the agency is responsible for preparing. Competition is, of course, important for many reasons, including that it produces low prices and high quality for consumers. Competition is also the mother of invention, which makes it especially important in a fast-changing marketplace like communications. Today's competition notice is an essential companion, therefore, to the innovation and investment notice that we discussed earlier, and vice versa. To illustrate the importance of competition, let's take a look at some data showing how the wireless industry evolved when competition was introduced in the mid-1990s. I was lucky to be here as an FCC staffer when the Commission held the first spectrum auctions. These increased the number of wireless competitors from 2 to over 5 providers in some markets. How did this increase competition? How did this increase in competition change the consumer market? Between 1994 and 1999, there was a drop of 50% in the per-minute price of cell phone service, and at the same time, the number of subscribers more than tripled. In addition to these kinds of consumer benefits, competition, of course, drives investment and creates jobs. Over that same 5-year period since auctions were introduced, cumulative investment in the industry more than tripled from $19 billion to over $70 billion. The industry quadrupled the number of cell sites from 18,000 to 80,000. And industry employment tripled from 54,000 to over 155,000. A competitive wireless sector, in short, is essential to ensuring that communication remains an engine for long-term economic prosperity. Competition drives innovation. That same period that I've described saw a rapid uptick in the pace of industry change, from the deployment of new wireless technologies to the introduction of new services such as SMS, to the launch of the first nationwide service plans, and ultimately to the launch of smart device platforms by innovators such as Palm, Microsoft, Google, Apple. As I noted in my opening remarks, we are at a pivotal moment in the history of the mobile industry. We're transitioning from a voice-centric world to a world of ubiquitous, we hope, mobile internet access. This transition promises to increase the pace of innovation and investment, but only if we have an open and competitive marketplace that gives every great idea a chance to make its way to consumers so that the best products or services can win. I hope and expect that the new wireless competition report will help set a standard for fact-based, analytically deep analysis of the mobile industry. We will continue to apply such an analysis to all of the other competition and industry reports produced throughout the Commission. But to succeed in this goal, we will need help from outside the agency, from wireless companies, the companies that make the networks, the devices, the operating systems, the applications, from academics, from analysts, from consumer groups, from a full and wide range of participants. I'm pleased that we have unanimous support to reach out as broadly as we can to seek inputs that the Commission can exercise its responsibilities as an expert agency. I acknowledge the concerns that Commissioner Dowell expressed about the comment period, and I appreciate your willingness to support the item anyway. Of course, we're all trying to get the balance right between moving to do what the agency needs to do to promote competition, investment, innovation, and being reasonable with respect to the burdens that our processes impose on companies. One of the things that I know that the Wireless Bureau and OET and other bureaus will do is be cognizant of those concerns as the proceedings develop, and also find newer and lower impact ways to interact with commenters, to get information, to make the process more efficient through workshops that are open, through using new media and technology. I believe that there are ways to get more comments, get better comments, and to be more reasonable in the burdens that we place on outsiders. I think in this we can have it all, broadening our outreach and getting better data and information. The wireless industry has been a real source of progress in America. If we are vigilant about maintaining competition in the industry, we have every reason to expect great things as we move to mobile broadband and beyond. And with that, unless there's any more discussion, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay. The ayes have it, so ordered, and editorial privileges are granted. Madam Secretary, again, thank you to the Wireless Bureau, OET. Austin Schlick, thank you for remaining. Madam Secretary, if you could announce the next item on the agenda, please.
The Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau will make the next presentation on a notice of inquiry into consumer information and disclosure.
Thank you. Thank you all for working on this important notice. Kathy, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and welcome Commissioner Clyburn and Commissioner Baker. Today, the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau presents to you a notice of inquiry on consumer information and disclosure in an effort to ensure that American consumers have access to information they need with their communication services. I want to thank CGB staff as well as all the bureaus and offices who have collaborated with us on this item, including the Wireline Competition Bureau, the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, and the Media Bureau. With me at the table today are Erica McMahon, Chief of our Policy Division, and Lisa Boley, an attorney in our Policy Division. Lisa will present the item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As Kathy stated, this item examines how communications customers choose providers, choose plans, manage their use of communication services, and decide when to switch providers or plans. Accurate and understandable information plays a central role in maintaining a well-functioning marketplace that encourages competition, low prices, and high-quality services. The Commission first adopted Truth in Billing rules in 1999. The focus at that time was somewhat narrow, and the Commission concentrated its efforts on making telephone bills more consumer-friendly by requiring that phone bills be brief, clear, non-misleading, and in plain language. In 2005, the requirement was extended to wireless phones. However, the Commission did not expand its inquiry beyond its primary focus, the clarity of consumers' bills. Since these initial inquiries were made, however, there have been significant changes in the market, including the introduction of many new services and products. In addition, the use of these services by consumers has increased substantially. One example is the use of mobile phones by consumers. Since 1999, the number of mobile telephone subscribers has grown from 86 million to 270 million in 2008. In addition, American consumers use and spend much more today on their television, telephone, and internet services. As the next slide shows, annual household income expenditures on communication services rose from $1,438 in 2002 to $1,844 in 2007. This is a big increase in just 5 short years. While these significant changes have benefited consumers in many ways, they've also created new sources of consumer confusion. For example, a recent survey by the Government Accountability Office found that 1/3 of wireless phone customers who pay their own bills found unexpected charges or had problems understanding their bills. And 1 in 5 customers who contacted customer service were dissatisfied with their carrier efforts to resolve the problem. Similarly, the Federal Trade Commission has found consumer confusion regarding offers for free internet services, which end up being high-cost, long-term obligations, primarily because restrictions and conditions on these offers are not disclosed clearly or conspicuously. And recent consumer report surveys reveal that while consumers were generally satisfied with their internet, phone, and television services, there was a high incidence of complaints about billing, support, and fees with respect to bundled services. In fact, this trend is reflected in the number of complaints filed with the Commission as well. As you can see in this next slide, in the cable, satellite, wireline, and wireless service areas, consumers submitted approximately 47% more complaints to the Commission in 2008 than in 2007. This data illustrates why this inquiry is so important and why we must start looking at these issues today. To that end, the item before you seeks comment on the kinds of information that will be most useful to consumers at each stage of the process: choosing a provider, choosing a service plan, managing use of the service plan, and deciding whether and when to switch providers or plans. First, we seek to better understand the variety of factors consumers consider when assessing providers of communication services. For example, how important is information about the provider's service plans, the quality of service, the quality of equipment? Second, the item seeks comment on what information consumers need when choosing a service plan or payment option, and what point-of-sale disclosures consumers receive, particularly when several services are bundled. Third, we seek comment on the information consumers need to manage the use of the service plans they have chosen. For example, do consumers receive information on usage, the potential for overage charges, or how to detect unauthorized charges? Are unauthorized charges easily detected, and how difficult is it for consumers to get such charges removed from their bills? Finally, the item seeks input on the extent to which consumers have access to sufficient and timely information for comparing the price and quality of their existing plans against other alternatives in the marketplace. For instance, how do consumers estimate and evaluate the practical and financial costs of switching providers as compared to the potential gains from adopting a different plan or provider? And what tools are available to consumers to help them monitor and evaluate alternative plans? The item seeks data from communication service providers, academic researchers, consumer groups, and third-party analysts that can shed light on the general state of consumer awareness about each stage of the purchase of communication services and opportunities to improve consumer welfare. The item seeks comment on whether consumer information and disclosure rules should apply to service providers beyond traditional wireline and wireless service, such as broadband internet access service and subscription video services. We also seek comment on how service providers currently present disclosure information and on best practices for the display and formatting of consumer information. The item notes examples of disclosure requirements that govern other industries, such as the Schumer Box regulations that apply to credit cards, the Federal Trade Commission's Energy Guide program, nutrition information on food products, requirements for fuel economy labeling on cars, Department of Transportation requirements for labeling of safety ratings, and mortgage information disclosures. The item seeks comment on whether similar disclosure requirements for communication services might assist consumers in understanding their bills. The item acknowledges the importance of and seeks input on technological tools that may be harnessed to empower customers and make it easier for them to access and analyze information about communication services. We also seek comment on all of these issues as they relate to people with disabilities, including accessibility of disclosure and billing information. Finally, the item seeks information on consumer education measures to ensure that consumers are aware of the protections afforded by the truth in billing rules and how they can file informal complaints with the Commission regarding billing issues. The Bureau recommends adoption of the item presented and requests editorial privileges. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item to you today.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Copps?
I remain in self-imposed silence, but I do have to report it's starting to take a personal toll on me to do that. I would ask that my previous statement be incorporated in both the written record of both of the previous items. And I would just remark that maybe the most telling chart that you had in there was a number of consumer complaints going up over 40% in a year's time. I think that shows how much work we have to do around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell?
I'm not used to going so quickly after, after the presentations. Thank you, Kathy and Lisa and the whole team there in CGB for all your hard work, and I'm delighted to approve today's order. As you noted, it has been 4 years since the Commission last examined consumer information and disclosure matters. In the intervening years, there has been significant growth and change in the communications marketplace, including the introduction of new categories of service, as well as new pricing models. Certainly, these advances have benefited consumers in many ways. Creative innovation, more choice, and lower prices immediately come to mind. But at the same time, there is some evidence that this change has created new sources of uncertainty, which you have pointed out. Given the circumstances, I appreciate the desire to take another look. And as we move forward, however, it is critical that we keep in mind the Commission's limitations here. For this reason, I thank Chairman Janikowski and my colleagues for supporting my suggestion that we include in this inquiry robust discussions of the Commission's statutory authority, the applicability of the First Amendment, as well as the longstanding precedent in this area. I would like to believe that we strengthened the item with a more sound legal footing, and therefore have provided a more meaningful opportunity for comment from all. So again, many thanks to the Chairman for his leadership and to all of my colleagues, and I look forward to hearing more about these issues and studying them in the next few weeks and months.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn?
Thank you. Today's notice reflects a fundamental tenet of an effective marketplace, where consumers have meaningful access to information when making choices among providers and varied service plans. They are far more likely to make the best, most efficient choice. When consumers are making informed choices, providers are driven to be innovative and to offer more desirable services. Consumers purchase those services, everybody wins. However, where consumers are locked into long-term plans they never anticipated, experience unforeseen failures in service coverage, or routinely and unknowingly pay for services they never envisioned using, the marketplace has gone askew. And when that occurs, the public interest requires that we identify the problem, fully comprehend its sources and its scope, and then address it head on. Do consumers of communication services and devices currently have meaningful access to essential information throughout and beyond the purchasing process? And if not, what are the most effective means to correct any systemic breakdowns? To answer this and related questions, we not only need information directly from consumers and groups that represent their interests, but from industry as well. Some of the best data in this area are in the hands of communications service providers. Many of them have developed impressive customer service operations that collect and track the kinds of information that could assist this commission with its quest to get a handle on the state of the marketplace. Without it, we run the risk of developing solutions that are suboptimal for both consumers and industry. Moreover, industry can provide the Commission with potential solutions to consumer confusion by sharing its own best practices. It would be helpful to understand how various companies and organizations have addressed any known information deficits and what each approach has yielded. I am particularly eager to learn more about the experience of groups like CTIA, which has promulgated a consumer code geared towards ensuring that accurate information is provided to consumers by its members. Is self-regulation truly effective in this context? How do we know? Would such self-regulation be superior to guidance from or rules promulgated by the federal government, developed in concert with industry and consumers alike? With robust industry participation, this proceeding can yield truly positive and long-lasting results. We also seek guidance from academics who are experts in the field of informational and behavioral economics. Each of us here on the days may have our own perceptions about how consumers process information and what prescriptions we would offer to remedy any perceived deficits. But for us to make enlightened judgments about what information consumers require to make sound decisions and in what form that information should appear, it is paramount that we have input from experts who have studied these matters with rigor. Finally, I applaud Chairman Janikowski, I did that time, and the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau for actively seeking input on what the Commission itself can do to better educate consumers. The Commission must not only play an active role, an ongoing role in this process, but be a leader in the business of protecting and empowering consumers. Thank you again to the Chairman and to the Bureau for this timely notice, which has my full support.
Thank you, Commissioner Clyburn. Commissioner Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Promoting consumer interest is one of the most important priorities that Congress has given us as a commission, and I take this responsibility very seriously, and I'm pleased to support this item. I particularly want to congratulate the staff at the Bureau for their very fine work on this notice. With this notice, we launch an inquiry that's broad to gather evidence to determine whether consumers of communication services have the information they need and whether providers disclose the information that they should in today's marketplace. Although the Commission has addressed truth in billing issues in the past, the proceeding we launched today will, rightfully, take a fresh look at consumer information and disclosure issues in a comprehensive approach. Information empowers consumers to make informed choices about products and services at all stages of the consumer experience, from choosing a provider to deciding when and whether to switch to a new provider service plan. I'm particularly encouraged that the item recognizes the industry's voluntary efforts to address consumer demands for more and better information about products and services. I'm also pleased that it includes questions about whether our existing rules continue to make sense in the current marketplace. I hope for a broad and substantive participation in the proceeding so that we will have a solid record on which to build a complete and accurate understanding of the market. It is important that we avoid regulating where the marketplace is actively responding to consumers' concerns. All regulation, no matter how well-intentioned, imposes costs. Especially at a time when our nation faces significant economic challenges, we have a responsibility to weigh the benefits of any proposed regulation against the costs, as well as to carefully consider potential unintended consequences of our actions. This is especially important when considering consumer protection regulations. At our confirmation hearing, Senator Johann said that when we impose regulations, somebody pays for that. And you know, it's not the big corporation, it really is the consumer. And if you don't strike the right balance, you hammer the little guy. And I agree. As regulators, if we don't strike the right balance, we risk imposing costs and other regulatory burdens on providers that can in turn raise prices, reduce quality of service, and harm innovation. These results, although unintended, may harm consumer welfare as much as the consumer unfriendly practices our decisions are intended to prevent. Government should proceed with caution as to ensure the best outcome for consumers. Having said that, I recognize that this notice only initiates an inquiry that will not lead directly to new regulatory obligations. Although I will be particularly mindful of the balance of benefits and costs as we move forward with the Commission's agenda, I fully support this effort to gather fact-based evidence on which we can evaluate the current state of the marketplace. I see this inquiry as fundamental to our role as the expert agency and in our responsibility to promote consumer welfare. Consumers are counting on us. So with those thoughts in mind, I look forward to working in a renewed spirit of cooperation with Congress, the Chairman, my fellow commissioners, Commission staff, consumers, and industry in the days and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Protecting and empowering American consumers is one of the Commission's most important responsibilities. And so I very much appreciate the work of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau with this item. Hard work with excellent results. You've helped advance today the Commission's efforts to ensure that consumers have access to the information they need. As we've discussed, and I want to emphasize here, the task of protecting and empowering consumers is the responsibility not only of the Consumer Bureau, but of every single bureau and office at the Commission. Every decision this Commission makes, big and small, affects the day-to-day lives of American consumers. And each of us who has the privilege to work at this institution, regardless of bureau or office, is responsible for ensuring that our agency's decisions are always in the interests of consumers of communications services. Today's notice addresses the protection and empowerment of American consumers. Specifically, we seek to ensure that consumers have the information they need to make the market work. I can't think of a more important moment to be considering these issues. Despite signs of stabilization in the economy, times are still very tough. Many Americans are learning to do more with less. A surprise charge on a monthly bill or a new service that doesn't perform as advertised can be a real budget buster, especially as household spending on communications grows ever larger. Today's notice and the process it launches will help the Commission build a record on ways to ensure that consumers understand what they're signing up for. And let's face it, as we heard in the presentation, the communications marketplace is a pretty confusing place today. Technology has brought us a lot of new choices, but can also lead to confusion about how to evaluate new options coming on the market. The good news is that technology can also help in very significant ways. It can give consumers access to new information and present old information in newer and better ways. This inquiry provides the agency with an important opportunity to understand how to make sure that information and technology are part of the solution when it comes to finding ways to protect and empower consumers. I was pleased to hear in the presentation they desire to consult with other agencies, understand across government what's worked and what hasn't worked, and to see what's appropriate and analogous for our work. I look forward to seeing the results of the notice, and before we move to our final vote for today, I want to take a moment to thank my colleagues and their staffs, my great staff and the staffs of each of the commissioners for their remarks, for working well together on these items in a series of ways. We're launching inquiries that are important, very important parts of the Commission's mission. With that, unless there is more discussion, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, so ordered. Editorial privileges are granted. That's the last of the items on which we'll take vote. We have two upcoming reports now. Madam Secretary, would you announce the next one, please?
The next presentation will be made by Blair Levin and will address the status of the Commission's development of a national broadband plan.
Thank you. And just Blair, as you're sitting down, I know that you were asked to present on broadband at the Commission's July meeting, and I know that the Commission is going to get a more detailed report in September, and so apologies for asking you to report again, especially given the work that the broadband team has done in the month of August, while much of the rest of DC was enjoying the summer. During what usually are the quiet days of August, Blair Levin and the broadband team have been in this room hosting as many as 3 workshops a day. In fact, they have one scheduled for this afternoon on applications and devices. I encourage everyone to stay and see and learn from that workshop. So Blair made me promise that I'd wrap this meeting up on time. I intend to keep my word. But I do want to thank Blair Levin, our broadband team, and countless others at the FCC who have done such an extraordinary job with these workshops, working on this very challenging but important responsibility of producing a national broadband strategy. I'm particularly pleased with the innovation that the team has brought to the process itself, finding new, open, transparent, and participatory ways, workshops, new media, technology in ways that are unparalleled for the agency and that are serving the agency very well. Blair, if I could turn it over to you and Eric Garr.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be in front of a full commission, which I didn't have the pleasure of doing in July. It's good to see Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Clyburn, and that we're all here and that we're going to go down a path together for the next 175 days as we move toward delivering this plan to Congress. I'm joined by Eric Garr, the General Manager of the Omnibus Broadband Initiative, who has done a fantastic job, and we will quickly kind of review where we are and also set the stage for what we'll be doing over that 175 days. If we could actually start it and move to the next slide. Over the next few months, we have set out a series of presentations to you that we hope to do. We will in September, I apologize, there was an error on that. It's actually in the September meeting, we will be reporting on the factual state of play, where we hope to lay out kind of where things are in broadband, where they're going to be over the next few years. The next step, which will be roughly in the November timeframe, will be kind of clarifying where we think the most serious problems are, what we need to address, and then we will immediately move into trying to find solution sets for those problems. We hope to be able to make a presentation in January focusing on the national purposes side and then wrap it up in February. I would note that additional workshops are being added as we find that we need certain greater information or that we actually did not appropriately see what needed to be done. So we'll have a lot more workshops in September. I'll talk about that in a second, or Eric will. But we're also going to move to field hearings because it's really important to get out of Washington. So if I can go to the next slide, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, and you were a big part of this, we did do a number of innovations. We've used some innovative techniques. I feel confident that that over time these techniques will be better and the Commission will improve on all of them. You mentioned one that I think we may hold the record for, and I hope that we continue to hold the record for, which would be probably the busiest month of August ever for Commission staff. I hope you don't have to do that again. We had no choice, and I really think a tremendous thank you is owed to a number of folks who worked extremely hard on the logistics, on bringing in the witness, on bringing in the participants. All of the workshops had significant staff participation, both long-term FCC staff as well as new staff that we brought in to backfill with certain kinds of expertise. And I think with that, let me turn it over to Eric to talk a little bit about how the workshops went.
Great. Thanks, Blair, and thanks, Chairman Janikowski and Commissioners. It's great to be here today. What I've been impressed by is the Midwestern practicality which the staff has brought to this task. Very quickly, we've all been working shoulder to shoulder on all the workshops, and I'll give you a quick update on those as well as some of the outreach activities we've done. From a workshop standpoint, as Blair mentioned, these have actually gone pretty well in the sense that we've found, I think, a good tool to cover a lot of ground very quickly, get a lot of public comment on serious issues very quickly, and also have a tool where we could ask important questions and actually dig into some details where appropriately. We've had 16 workshops. We've had over 1,100 people in this room. There's been over 4,000 people online that have already participated to date. We've also identified several new workshops. We'll schedule dates for these very soon, but we've committed to additional topics, including one on state and local government, spectrum, the role of content, cybersecurity, an additional workshop on disability solutions, and on civil rights. We'll post the dates for those very soon, but I think that speaks to Blair's point that as we've done the workshops, we've learned some things. And as we learn some things, we'll add some workshops and ultimately add other tools to make sure that we build the right record that can support the plan. If you could go to the next slide, please. We brought in a huge portfolio of people to bring information and experiences to us. I think it's important to look at the whole portfolio. It's included many traditional industry experts from large corporations that provide broadband today and will tomorrow. It's also included, and actually this is the largest number, a significant number of small and disadvantaged business who see broadband as a tool to grow their businesses. We've also been joined by many entrepreneurs with new ideas and have had significant involvement from the various public interest groups, other government agencies, and the academic community. I think the portfolio reflects a full view of the issues. We'll continue to add to it as we go forward into future workshops. Next slide, please. Just to highlight a few folks that joined us, I think it's important to look at this list to showcase not just the balance in the portfolio, but the quality of speakers. These are really great people, many of which have very deep skills, are expert in their fields, and many of which actually have not been part of an FCC proceeding before, which I think has been an important part of this, echoing the chairman's comments about the fact that as the industry changes, it impacts lots of different parts of the economy, and it's important that we get them here as part of our plan. If you could move on to the next slides, please. I'll go very quickly through the graphs here. No need to stress about this. Point is, there are a lot of people here, and both in the room and online. If you could go 2 more slides, please, in the interest of time. Actually, back to that one. Sorry. This is actually interesting. Incredible interest from energy, education, and public safety. Energy and education are interesting because these are topics which are not necessarily issues that the Commission's been engaged on in the past in this way. And public safety, I think because of just the importance of public safety. So the online numbers there were extremely high, and it's useful to note that. If you could go on to the next slide, I'll just highlight a couple of the outreach activities that we've done. As mentioned, there was a lot of experiment with our blog and with Twitter and IdeaScale. We'll learn as we go with this, but I think the early returns are pretty good. We've had lots of different posts on the blog, a ton of comments, many Twitter followers. There's a joke in there somewhere, but and we're starting to work with IdeaScale as well, which is a way to kind of bring some rating to the ideas that we're discussing. The final point I'd like to make is to highlight how we can use these tools to get to substantive input very quickly. My colleague Carlos Kirchner posted a blog on the public notice we put out on the definition of broadband, and it generated 68, there are probably more by now, comments that actually were very good substantive comments. Now, they don't replace the formal responses that we'll get, but it certainly gets us to the substantive issues very directly, very quickly, and I think that particular post showcases how, when we do this right, it can be very valuable. And with that, I'll turn it back to Blair.
And on the next slide, I'm performing a task of kind of leading into the next speakers, Steve and Mary Beth, talking about rebooting the FCC. I just wanted to note that that this is part of that process. Their groups, Steve's new media group has been fantastic to work with. They've done a great job, and as you can see in some of the reports, we're doing a lot more online than we've ever done, and I think it's been very helpful. With that, however, I do want to say we have some very big challenges ahead of us. I could name a number of them, but let me just focus on four. First, scope. This is the largest scope of any task the FCC has done, certainly since the 96 Act, and in some ways broader than the 96 Act. And that means we have a large number of work streams that we must work on right away with a great deal of expertise. And with that, we have a limited amount of time. I think 175 days left, and given that scope and given that time, it does require us to move very, very quickly on a number of things, which means we're going to, as I've said before, make some mistakes, but we'll hopefully correct as quickly as we can. Two others that have become more clear to me over the last 6 weeks. One is data. We've had to essentially recreate data that I think all of us who came into this were hoping would exist, and it doesn't exist here. There's certain kinds of data about various costs, various revenue streams. Frankly, this institution did not have the kind of data that it really needed to do this kind of project, which is really should not be thought of in the short term, but in the long term. And hopefully, one of the things we'll do is we'll have a better sense, and I know, Mr. Chairman, because you and I have talked about it, one of the outputs of this will be not just replenishing what data we have, but really thinking about what data we need over a longer period of time to make the right kind of policy judgments. And then finally, there is a certain imbalance that I want to speak about. At the core of this is an effort by Congress to provide what we might think of as universalization of broadband, both on the deployment side and on the adoption side. The imbalance that I think we're going to see is that there is going to be lots of demand for resources to provide that universalization, both on deployment and on adoption. It's very clear on the record that there's a consensus that we need to do that. But there are already lots of pieces of evidence that on the kind of demand for the universalization resources, it will be very heavy. I don't know specifically what the NTIA grant program will show us, but I feel confident that one of the things it'll show us is that the demand for the grants will largely outstrip the amount of money that they have. Let me mention another one that it came up in several workshops and I think will be very interesting this fall, and unfortunately very problematic for the country and the world, which is the H1N1 virus. I think that will demonstrate in a very profound and dramatic way the importance of having broadband connectivity. I think it is likely that a number of people in this room will be commuting by broadband for a period of time. I think a number of our children will be going to school. If at all, they will be forced to be home. And I would note, I was reading in the newspaper actually this morning a story about a child in Brockton, Massachusetts, who had swine flu in June, and they hooked up a computer in the classroom and then turned on Skype so that she could watch all the lessons in the classrooms, and actually was also reading in Manchester, New Hampshire newspaper about a school system that installed essentially the same thing in preparation for the H1N1 outbreak that we're likely to see. So I think the demand for resources to make sure we do universalize broadband will be very significant. But the supply is going to be limited, and I think that imbalance is one of the most tricky and difficult things that we will be dealing with as we march forward to deliver the plan to the country. And with that, the final slide simply talks about some of the process steps going forward. We have some more workshops. We have some comment cycles. We will be putting out a public notice in the next couple of days talking about the comment cycles for the first tranche of workshops, which end next week. But the second tranche, which will continue into September, will have another comment cycle on. In the September meetings, we're going to incorporate all the lessons from the workshops, the comment summaries, and everything else that we have learned in addition to having field hearings to give you an overview of where we think we are. And then finally, let me note that people who want to have meetings, ex parte meetings with folks related to this plan can now do so online. That resource is now up at broadband.gov/ex parte. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we're done.
Thank you for the great report, and thank you to you and your team for embracing this important challenge on behalf of the Commission. We appreciate it. Madam Secretary, what is the next report?
The next presentation will address reform efforts at the FCC.
Great. As Mary Beth Richards and Steve Van Rokel come up, let me briefly introduce this report. FCC reform is a matter of real urgency. No matter what the topic, if we want to get the policy right, we need to improve the FCC's processes, its technical and data infrastructure, and empower the FCC staff. That's why I'm so pleased to have Mary Beth Richards as special counsel for FCC reform, working with our FCC reform team, consisting also of our managing director, Steve Van Rokel, and our general counsel, Austin Schlick. I've directed them to work with all bureaus and offices and to consult closely with my colleagues on the Commission in this project. With this team, I'm confident we'll build an FCC that efficiently and effectively achieves the goals of the Communications Act, encourages and facilitates participation by all stakeholders, reaches fair and timely decisions, and uses technology and new media smartly while serving the public. In short, the FCC, I hope and expect, thanks to this team, will become a model for excellence in government. With that, Mary Beth Richards, I believe the floor is yours, and thanks to each of you for working on this project and for your report today.
Thank you. And before I begin, I wanted to thank you and Commissioner Copps for inviting me to come back to the agency, and also for the honor of helping you on this reform effort, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to working with you and the other commissioners on this project as we move forward. I've spent the last 7 weeks working with Austin and Steve and Paul Desau behind me on what the component part and scope of the reform plan should be. And as an aside, I'd like to acknowledge just the incredible talent and expertise in technology and law, in business processes that the group brings to this. What I wanted to do today was to report on the scope of the reform plan. On your first day, Mr. Chairman, you tasked the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau with doing an assessment of the agency's public safety readiness. While the agency stands in good stead in terms of our preparedness, the review showed there are areas where we can make improvements. I know that Admiral Barnett, the head of the Bureau, will report soon on the results of the review, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but I did want to mention that we've already begun implementing some of his recommendations. One was that we hold a tabletop exercise where senior leaders of the agency convene and go through a simulated emergency to test a response, and I know because all of you or your staffs participated in that there will be some beneficial things that will come out of that tabletop. Last month, Mr. Chairman, you tasked Paul Dessau with a top-to-bottom review of our data collection, analysis, and dissemination. Paul and his team are halfway through that collection. They're looking at the data that we need to make our decisions and the gaps between what we have and what we need. This is an area that's instrumental in our ability to be effective. Over the last several weeks, Mr. Chairman, you and your staff have been meeting with each of the bureaus and offices to understand the issues that are before them and get ideas on how we can improve things here at the agency. We've completed half of those meetings, and some of the improvement ideas mentioned so far include hiring additional staffs where we're lacking in certain skill sets, especially in the economic and engineering areas, better and more access to technology, a better management of the workflow, including strategic planning, direction, prioritization, and collaboration. And with every group so far, a discussion about deficiencies surrounding the data that we have. Our data review includes an assessment of what we get, how we get it, where we get it, and how we use it and how we share it. The review's looking at over 400 major data collections that OMB has approved under the Paperwork Reduction Act, as well as data we buy from third parties and data that the Commission generates internally. We look forward to providing you all with a better understanding of how the Commission currently uses data and suggestions for how we might reform those activities and improve our efficiency and the foundation for our decision making.